Nowadays, Halloween is all about costumes, candies, and capers. Kids dress up as goblins and witches. Adults pass out candy and go to parties. And we celebrate Halloween as the scariest day of the year. What if it didn't start us that way? Today I'm going to explain the history of Halloween from the pagan Samhain to the Christianized All Saints' Day and to the modern day Halloween. Now, as written about in Trotharans, the Celtic origins of Halloween transcend fear. Samhain was not primarily a superstitious holiday. It did celebrate darkness, but darkness, according to the Celts, could be benevolent or dark. Samhain means summer's end, and according to the end of summer, Morrigan and Dagda, the Celtic mother and father deities, mated, which also led to the summer's end being linked to fertility. And also the coming of the darkness represented death. But death was also dark or benevolent. The dark being human death occurred most during the winter, and the benevolent occurred during the animal's death for food. So it was best and the worst rolled into one holiday. And of course there was a bit of a supernatural to it too. According to the Celtic legends, the quintessential battle of good versus evil was the Danann and Fomor what occurred. The Fomor being bad and the other one being good. Of course, good prevailed, and they allowed the Fomor, which were the chaos spirits, to reign only on that one day, in hopes that the rest of the year they would be peaceful. And that's why we actually allow pranksters to do whatever they want on Halloween, within reason. And of course, there's the standard veil between the worlds became thinner, as people thought ghosts could come to people and talk about how they loved them and such. And also, people made models of the doll. They made models of bad traits they didn't want, and they would burn them in hopes that the traits disappeared later on. All that changed before the 5th century when missionaries came to Ireland. In 601 AD, Pope Gregory I sent out an edict saying, all those pagan festivities, let's not get rid of them entirely. Let's supplant them with Christianized festivities. For example, Christmas. Jesus was not born on December 25th. That was actually the day of the midwinter solstice, which the pagans did celebrate. So Christmas began to be celebrated on the midwinter solstice. And likewise with Samhain, they did that with they first tried All Saints' Day, which occurred on November 1st. Didn't exactly work out. People were still celebrating Samhain. So they then tried All Souls' Day, which was on the 2nd of November. Didn't work again. People were still praying to the spirits and such. The missionaries eventually branded spirits and fairies as malicious and followers of the old religion as witches, which is where we get that now for Halloween. In both Halloween and involving American consumption ritual, we learned that Halloween was originally a collaboration between Irish immigrants and American superstition. What happened was, when the Americans first came to the colonies, they had a sort of combined holiday that was a bit like Samhain and a bit like All Saints' Day. And they believed that witches would come out and steal innocent souls and do dealings with devils, and that eventually grew into the American superstition of witches. Irish immigrants still had a mainly Samhain tradition in which they would celebrate the harvest, the coming of the darkness. In the 18th century, when the potato famine occurred, the Irish fled to America, and there they found American superstition, and Americans found the Irish traditions, which then led to something a bit like the modern Halloween, in which we have our witches, obviously. They have the legend of Jack-o'-lantern, which there was a cursed man named Jack who done so much evil that he was not allowed to heaven, but he annoyed the devil so much he wasn't allowed to hell. He was forced to wander the earth forever, holding a vegetable candle in it. They also had the decorating the houses with harvested vegetables. And costumes. Costumes were primarily used when people, mainly children, went about and got offerings for the spirits. And then, of course, we also have bonfires in Ireland. Bonfires, as I mentioned earlier, were used to burn the dolls of the unwanted treats. And they became a tradition for Halloween. And so Halloween, not quite back to its origin, but it did make a somewhat way to it. And so Halloween went through the pagan Samhain to the Christianized All Saints' Day / All Souls' Day, and then now to the modern Halloween that we all know and love.